Most firms survive, the best ones scale. Welcome to the Managing Partners Podcast, where law firm leaders learn to think bigger. I'm Kevin Daisey. Let's jump in. All right, what's up, everyone? We're recording another episode of the Managing Partners Podcast. I got a unique crew on here with me today. I've known Bryan for a little while, actually, through some other business, and he has Michael on here today, and we're going to talk about AI governance, and not a topic we've covered. AI is a hot topic, obviously. We talk about it all the time. I'm actually giving a talk tomorrow on AI search. So AI is just everywhere right now, and so this is something maybe that might be new to you, and I'm excited to have them kind of talk about what they do and the importance of it. So they're with Babel. That's Babl. Babl AI, so you can go to Babl AI to check them out. But I'm going to have them kind of talk about what Babel is, their backgrounds, and we're going to dive into this governance talk, and interested to see where we go with it. So Bryan, Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Kevin. Excited to be here for sure. And excited to talk a little bit about what Babel does, the governance, and also how it impacts the legal space, the compliance space. That's a big topic that we deal with. And Michael's our general counsel, and just recently created a AI governance certificate for legal professionals, which is aimed at really opening the eyes of legal professionals about all the unique, fun stuff that AI creates for lawyers to solve and figure out, with respect to the unique risks and challenges of AI. So we're excited to talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah, and Michael, I'll let you go in just a second, but you all have also, for my listeners, which I really appreciate, if you go to Babel AI, you guys have a discount code for anyone listening to this episode, or if you hear it in the future, that this code is only given to you all. So, you can tell them that, and then we'll have Michael kind of give us his background, because it's extensive, and can't wait to get talking to him. So. Thank you for tuning into the show today. I have taken things to the next level, and I've started the Managing Partners Mastermind. We're a peer group of owners looking for connection, clarity, and growth strategies. So if you're looking to grow your law firm and not do it alone, please consider joining the group. Spots are limited, so I ask for anyone to reach out to me directly through LinkedIn, and we can set up a one-on-one call to make sure it's a fit. Now back to the show.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So if you go to babl.ai, Babl.ai, you can go to our courses and use the coupon code LAW30 for a 30% discount on any of the education that we have on the site. Like I said, we have the legal professional certificate, but we have lots of other things with AI auditing and all those things. And maybe it's good to just talk a little bit about what Babel is before I kick it over to Michael. And I'm the chief sales officer, helping get our message out. But we are the Brown Algorithmic Bias Lab. So we started as a research firm back in 2018, studying the best way to map, measure, manage, and govern AI. Some of our research was contributed to the NIST AI risk management framework. We were one of the initial consortium members there, and we've prided ourselves on our research. We have an awesome research team that's constantly researching edge case for AI use. And we've taken that research into practice, and we actually are out providing audit assurance for AI systems. We've done lots in the HR space. We've done lots with kind of edge cases, autonomous vehicles, facial recognition. Really, any way that AI is being deployed, we have a systematic approach to break it down, spot and identify risks within the governance, within the testing, any sort of bias, what's not being looked at, where does the desired outcome of that AI system get off track. So we can kind of start you with this point in time, and you want to get to this point in time, and we can help you measure and manage your way towards that. And that's our special, unique gift. And we're hoping to explain how lawyers should be really aware of within that process, the risks that businesses face by implementing AI into core, profit models, revenue streams, business processes, business decisioning and judgments, which were normally left up to humans. And now we're codifying them, and what risks those bring into the world and how governance really impacts that. So that's a best I could do to set you up, Michael.
Yeah. Well, I'll just
Thanks,
add
Bryan.
before Michael goes. We're never going to let Michael talk. Okay.
That's the goal.
He's just the guy behind the curtain. He's like the Wizard of Oz over there. But
The time is being charged, though, so
well, I go to legal conferences. I do this podcast. I have lawyer clients all around the country, and all lawyers and firms are being just pushed and told use AI, implement it here, there, everywhere. I mean, so it's just being pushed quite often. Some companies just started, some are new, some of these lawyers are doing it themselves using Open AI or ChatGPT, and so I just lay that out there before we dive in. So, Michael, since you're charging me by the hour, let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself.
So I'm Michael Paik. I'm the general counsel for Babl AI, and I'm actually also an AI auditor. And that's how I actually got into the firm. I took the courses and I qualified, and I like these guys so much I joined the company. So I've been with Babel a little bit under a year, but I've been practicing for over 25 years. And my background is, I started off in New York on Wall Street, kind of corporate practice, then went to Silicon Valley, and then I returned back to Korea, where I'm residing now, about 20 years ago. And at the time, there wasn't that much work in venture capital, which was what I was doing in Silicon Valley. So I kind of pivoted into building out risk management systems for large conglomerates, industrials. So tires, steel, shipbuilding, large companies with many public companies in their system operating worldwide. And similar to some of these startups, their compliance infrastructures were inadequate. That's what I focused my time on. And then a couple of years ago, as ChatGPT rolled out, I started, using it for myself, and then building AI apps, and then getting interested in kind of the compliance uh, around AI usage, and that's how I found Babel and ended up joining them. My previous experience with AI is, 30, 34 years ago, I studied linear programming because before I went to law school, I did operations research. And in practice, I had an expert systems client, and then I was on the board for a computer vision company for many years. So I had some experience with it, but, it really kind of picked up a couple of years ago, just like with everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we know it's been around for a long time. And I feel like most people think it just came around in the last couple of years. ChatGPT is really blowing things up.
Yeah, I
And,
think
the algorithms are everywhere now with social media and, shopping, Amazon. It's pervasive. It's just that we didn't think about it in this way, pretty much until ChatGPT crystallized it for many of us.
Yeah,
yeah,
Brian,
definitely.
you had something to add to that?
I
Sorry.
was gonna say, yeah, I think I do a lot of reading in this space, but yeah, most people are like, has been here for like, since ChatGPT, but proven, I think back in like the 1930s is when this was mathematically proven that you could have automated decisioning through a machine. So it's been around for quite some time, and it's like most elementary level, but yeah, how it's being used in business today is really disruptive to everything since ChatGPT. So, and most people aren't really aware of all of those risks or compliance challenges and those types of things. So it's certainly created a whole bunch of new things, and we see all the regulations that are constantly, being discussed and voted on. And, is it this country, this state, this region? And that's why we talk with a lot of lawyers and legal professionals about how does it impact? Because we're talking about AI. What is it, and how do you break it down? How do you even evaluate that for legal compliance perspectives? Right? How does it impact? So that's kind of the angle specific to law firms. We're with a lot of different people because governance, I think, generally is best with a diverse group. So legal should be a part of every single organization's governance team. They should be weighing in and helping there. And that's where, if you understand how AI governance works generally and some of the frameworks, and that's what we teach in the program, then, you can start to think about it from a legal perspective, which is where Michael comes in and really adds just a ton of value there in that certification. But yeah, we've been keynoting at different, like the DC Bar Association. We've keynoted that a couple of years running. Our CEO's there, and he works with regulators globally. So, we're constantly talking about regulation.
And
Fun
for
stuff.
for lawyers in particular, I've been practicing long enough so that I actually remember when email got rolled out for lawyers to use. So, we used to do paper distributions, mailing everything, hard copies. And back in maybe the 98, 99, your law firm started using email. and approving it for distribution. At that time, everybody was worried about confidentiality and what could go wrong. And I think we're at that stage now with AI, and there is a lot to worry about. And that's kind of why we created this course for lawyers, in particular, to kind of address their special needs, and to help them, get a better understanding when they're working with clients who are deploying AI. There's a role for lawyers, both at law firms and it's definitely in-house in leading the charge on kind of managing these risks. Part of what we're doing is trying to get attorneys comfortable with AI and confident about opining on AI, in their professional capacity, but also competent in using AI for their own work. And I know you have a diverse audience here, but whether you're a solo practitioner or a law firm, partner, or you're in house, there are many uses of AI that remain to be explored beyond the headlines in misciting cases in litigation. That's really, as far as I'm concerned, that's actually kind of a no-brainer. You got to prove your stuff.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of use cases for AI for law firms, whether you're solo law firm or in-house, I think are in knowledge management, in operations, in managing workflows, basically managing your business and creating kind of slack and efficiencies in your time so that you can bill. And if you're in-house, then you can, improve, the risk management systems and maybe just go home early. So this type of, I appreciate the articles highlighting these bad, you know, cases of made up citations and litigation. But I think, we don't need to really belabor it here. I think most of your audience is well aware of the risks, and it's a professional obligation to manage your work product. And that, you can't skip it by using AI.
No, yeah, 100%. Yeah, like hallucinations and people using it for that kind of stuff. I think that's, yeah, but maybe that scares some people from utilizing it for other things like client communication and, those kinds of efficiencies that you can create. Again, I do have a diverse audience, so I appreciate that. So say if you have a PI a firm on the listening, they have intake, they have, they're trying to bring in potential leads, trying to turn them into consultations and then turn them into a client that they can set up on contingency. All the work that's involved there, right? Communication, follow-ups, client journey and processes, steps throughout the case history and updating the client. There's so much application for AI in those areas. And there's a lot of companies taking advantage of that too. So, and then I see a lot of lawyers, I think I mentioned this before recording, lawyers creating their own AI products based on their own need, or, they say, hey, I see a hole here. I see something we could fill. And so I'm seeing all kinds of creative things that are happening there too. So, but yeah, not just using it to, do the casework for you. I think there's obviously systems out there and companies that are doing that are saying, it's safe to use and blah, blah, blah. But I think, people are still more concerned about that piece of it.
Yeah.
But just using it in your day-to-day operations and processes, I feel like that's been more adopted. But I would assume there's still risks associated with that and things that they may not know.
Well,
100% right. Yeah.
fundamentally, and this is, I think well understood, but not always remembered. This technology, particularly large language models, it's stochastic. And basically that means there's a probability distribution associated with its output. So the easiest way that I've found to explain it is there's actually a cartoon called Adventure Time. There was a monster in this cartoon called a demon cat who had approximate knowledge of many things. And so this is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a tool that has approximate knowledge of a lot of things, probably. So the trick is to, corral that cat and to get the output that you want for your particular workflow. But that demon cat will raise its head when you least expect it. So keeping that in mind in your workflows is very helpful. So, obviously lawyers are meticulous and we review our work, but, there are a lot of time constraints and it's easy to sometimes, overlook things in the midst of a lot of workflow. But this demon cat, it's going to pop up. And that's the key to understanding, I think, how AI works and then what you can do to manage it. And that's where these systems come in, right? Whether it's governance, risk management, and really guardrails around your work processes.
That's a good analogy, I guess. I like that. Yeah, I feel like I didn't know lawyers that kind of use it every day, all day, and at least for personal and maybe some business. And then I know some that are just like completely like not. I don't even know how to use it. I don't use it. I don't want to. I'm scared of it. So, I'd like to hope my audience is on the side of using it to their advantage. And I just go back to the fact that, there's all these companies out there that offer products built on AI. And how would, if I have 3 AI companies that I'm hiring for this and that, plugging in here and there, like, what's the risk to the firm, the understanding that they should have of those products and what they're doing and what they could do or potential risks with communicating, say, to a client or things that maybe appear harmless or controlled. But what should a law firm owner really be going? Okay, how am I assessing these products? How do I make sure I understand what my risk might be?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think to get into the nitty gritty of it, whether you're in-house and you're doing vendor management, or you're buying software or services for your law firm, or you're subscribing to this stuff as a solo, there's certain questions that you need to ask. Let's start with the demon cat, right? So all of these products are wrapped on top of large language models, right? Whether they're put out by OpenAI or Claude or otherwise. And all of those large language models have a version of this demon cat. And if you look at the underlying kind of agreements, because we're talking to attorneys here, if you look at the agreements that underlie those offerings by these large language model providers, they disclaim very clearly accuracy. So that's in writing, it's in the contract, and that's what your vendor is wrapping their services on. Since the the model provider has disclaimed it, where does it go? Is it the service provider that's going to hold that risk, or they're going to most likely disclaim it again to you? So you have to read your agreement and to understand the kind of parameters of what's being offered and what their warranties are, and what you can expect in terms of accuracy. A lot of the legal kind of LLMs or legal kind of services, they take great pains to talk a lot about, we reduce hallucinations, we'll abide confidentiality, there's no training on your data, and that's important. But still, that doesn't get rid of the demon cat. And so we need to think about what that means for your workflow, how you use it, whether you need to buy, additional insurance to cover kind of disasters that may come about because of your use of this particular service. So, buyer beware. And so in terms of vendor management, the contracting process is important, as is your due diligence. And we advise both in-house teams and others on this, but it really starts on a meta level, not just at that one contract, right? So this is what Bryan was talking about with regard to governance. What are you trying to do with AI, and what is your kind of entity or law firm's approach to managing the risks and opportunities related to AI? And the recommendation we make is you need management systems around this, whether it's something from ISO, which is 42001, which is kind of the standard that's coming about, or whether you're using a NIST risk management framework. Or if you're active in the EU, you have much more onerous conditions because of the EU AI Act that you need to be looking at. It depends where you are, but you do need a risk management system. So that's what lies between kind of the governance, your top level, board level, owner level decision on whether and how to use AI and how to manage it. And then the managers need to come up with a management system. And part of that then is the vendor management step when you bring in services from outside. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't heard ISO in a little while. I used
Yeah,
to,
it's back. It's back in full force. That's going to be the thing. But I was going to say, just on specifically procurement, I think it's as Michael pointed out, there's a lot of terms and conditions that need to be evaluated, and who owns the liability of are we materially changing how the tool from the vendor is being used within our workflow is something that I think every business needs to be hyper aware of. Am I assuming liable risk for this HR decisioning because I've changed how that works? And there are class action lawsuits out on some of these topics, and you can see some of these risks that play out in real time across different domains. So I'm not sure if they're settled, but they're active and they don't look great from a brand perspective. Procurement is a weak spot, I think, for every organization because they don't know the risks. And I think they live in the terms and conditions, and thinking through that kind of ownership of risk is a huge challenge for organizations to get their head around. And I think that's an opportunity for any lawyer. If they really get into the weeds and understand the emerging laws, they can probably add that as an item on the line card of services provided. So much, I think, that's going to move into the digital realm for lawyers. And, AI is, really the catalyst event. And, you get into finance. How does, future state with code come into law? So, just throwing that out there. But certainly areas to grow into, new markets for every industry are being created. And it's just another iteration of, the domain. So it's an interesting time, but throw that one out
That that said, I mean, AI is just, another new thing, right? Like email. We still
there.
have product liability. We still have, other laws that apply. And that's the domain of the attorneys. The point is that this new age of AI impacts all of this, but, it's eminently understandable. It's just that, you need to take a little time to understand the technology, how it impacts you in your own work, your organization, and then your clients. And, it impacts them differently. And maybe we can just briefly go through them because, I'd like to give as much value as possible on this
Sure.
call.
Yeah, go ahead.
Going
I'm
back
being
to what
billed
you
for your
said,
time. I might as well use it.
about lawyers making their own workflows, and I mentioned that I did that as well, right? I made no code apps for myself to manage risk management and compliance, and that's very helpful. I mean, but obviously, the things that you need to be aware of is, don't upload client information, make sure that things are anonymized. You have to manage it, you have to review the output. All of that stuff's obvious, but in addition, there's this kind of probabilistic aspect to it. It is not like, first of all, it's definitely not like a Google search, right? Where you look for information and you get it via this web crawl that's indexed. What you're really looking at is a large zip file of the internet about 6 months ago, as kind of trained to talk to you nicely by kind of through reinforcement learning and with the human feedback. And this chat function kind of lulls you into believing that you're working with something that has actual intelligence. It's not. It's a token tumbler, right? It's a random process that has been trained with lots of money and a lot of math so that it sounds right, but the output needs to be reviewed. So when you're making your own apps, if you understand these limitations and you use it for things like transcribing intake interviews, maybe organizing your office expenses, maybe, doing an analysis of your timesheets of over the past month or the quarter, there are things that you should be aware of with regard to the limitations of LLMs when you're doing this. It ain't Excel, right? So there's an aspect to this that should be well understood according to the use case. And then again, if you're making an application for another, what is a service, you are in a good place if you know the domain, the workflow very well. That's the key, right? That's the context. So what's happening now, as you've probably seen in the media, is that it's no longer necessary to be a coder. The natural language is sufficient. And you can do this graphically with kind of Lego boxes, but the prompting and the context for creating these applications is key. And the benefit of having the domain expertise is that you know your stuff, and so you can see if something's gone awry. And that kind of judgment is something that some 25-year-old coder is not going to provide for you without that domain expertise and oversight. So bringing it all the way back around to the management systems, it's really applying that domain expertise and oversight to the risks of using AI so that you can get to your objective eyes wide open.
That's I never heard it explained that way. So I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think a lot of people at this point, especially younger people, but even people around me, employees, my business partner, I think most people truly kind of believe or take it at its word when it spits out a result. I ChatGPT'd it, and this is what it said. So I find
It's
myself
very
in that.
believable.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
find myself in that. I'm like, hey, let me look up this. Oh, here's the answer.
My
You don't
favorite
say,
is
hey,
how
I think this might be the answer. You say, here is the answer.
Yeah, my favorite is how good it makes me feel about myself with my crazy ideas. They're like, that is super smart. You're like, you're the smartest. So yeah, definitely like that. But
Well, I could say, what's the number one marketing agency for SEO in the world? It says my company.
yeah,
Well,
sometimes
it,
it's true, Kevin.
it has a history of me talking about my company all in my GPT. So it's obviously going
Well,
to say mine.
Yeah, yeah.
so
That's the
For the attorneys in particular, it's very important that you go in and first of all get the paid version, right? So the stuff's not being trained on. Notwithstanding the case in New York that still has this kind of up in the air with regard to OpenAI, we have the cases on the kind of the West Coast that's on copyright and so on. All of this will eventually settle, but get the paid version. That's a first step, and then you need to
100%.
customize your instructions. You have to tell it who you are, what you expect, just like you have a new hire. So when you're onboarding a new hire, you let them know what your expectations are. And this includes things like, IRAC, issue rule, application conclusion. This is the stuff this is kind of the way I think about things and how I like your output. And depending on your practice, you'll have different kind of constraints and parameters that you want to put on but you can do that in custom instructions. I mean, that's not programming. That's just kind of, letting it know who you are. And beyond that, you can start making workflows for yourself. So if we start with the individual, if you make custom GPTs for yourself that kind of hardwire additional instructions for a particular workflow, whether it's a client intake or a particular type of like monthly newsletter that you send your clients, you kind of set up a workflow for that via a custom GPT. And for OpenAI, for example, you can do it similarly with other applications. My favorite easy one for this is every time you take a CLE, take the transcript, upload it along with the slides into either a custom GPT, or for this one, you can use something that's free like Notebook LM. And you have a little mini paralegal that has this material that you can chat with. And even, in the case of Notebook LM, ask it to create little podcasts for you regarding that subject matter. So you took a CLE on space law and then, you want to get kind of a resource for this. It's like a little mini librarian.
That's pretty
But
cool.
those kinds of personal uses require customization and kind of awareness of what's possible. And then, that kind of builds out further for the law firm and then for in-house teams at the client. But basically you're building little management systems for a particular application, whether it's something as easy as a CLE or a monthly newsletter. That management system starts with that custom instruction and an awareness of dealing with that demon cat.
No, I love that. And I know for like my company, we have a paid version of ChatGPT for every employee. So every single person that has it is encouraged to use it unless they're not going to for some reason. But yeah, everyone has it. And we encourage them to try to use it within their position to, find more performance or efficiencies. And so I know that we do that here. I don't know.
You're kind of leaning forward into the technology.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah. I
the
mean, and
follow
so we're trying to grow. And so it's, yeah, if you manage this department, or you're using ChatGPT, how can you leverage it? How can we become more efficient? And we want everyone on the team to be thinking that way. If they're passionate about what they're doing, they should be doing that.
the governance and management steps would be, do you have a policy in terms of how it can be used? Do you have guidance on what not to use it and what not to do with it? Don't upload
To
certain
some degree.
types of documents. So that's the kind of governance and management system that we're talking about in terms of, if you have nothing, if you have no governance or management system, and say you don't even say anything about AI usage at your company, people are still using AI in the course
What?
of their employment, and you're still open to these risks because you haven't addressed them. So we call it shadow AI, but addressing AI usage first of all, and then creating a kind of a rule for the organization, and then training people on it, and then whatever in your particular organization you want to do in terms of boundary conditions, that's basically what we're talking about. And then when you start to reach out in terms of vendors and third parties, you need to have a system to manage that as well.
That's a good point. I mean, I know we do. We've encouraged it. We have some guidelines that we put in place, and then we do like team and trainings. Like we have all hands meeting this week, so we have guest speakers on AI. I'm giving a talk on AI search and stuff like that. But so we are doing some of that ourselves. But yeah, any law firm listening, what is your team doing? Are they using it? If you don't know they're using it, they're probably using it while they're in office on your machines. I guarantee it. So yeah, is there a policy in place? Do you even know who's using what and when? And you can still be open to that. That's very interesting. So I want to tie this back around to Babel and kind of what if I was a lawyer right now and I'm like, let me go check out Babel. Like, what's that experience like? Kind of what's the process like? What are they getting? Maybe kind of hit that real quick.
Yeah. So for our education, so we have really kind of three main product categories. We have AI education, AI advisory, and then AI audit. So the education, obviously, we talked a lot about the governance certificate for legal professionals. It's a 4-course certificate program, which is, breaks down just generally how does AI impact business? What are the unique risks that presented in business? How should we be approaching AI investment as a value framework in there to bring projects into existence? We talk about AI governance frameworks, the NIST AI RMF, ISO 42001, and EU AI Act, and just kind of how those all work. And as Michael pointed out, AI management systems are incredibly important for not just like getting it off the ground, but for continuous improvement, iterations as the technology grows and becomes more impactful in the work streams. And then the fourth is the specific domain legal professionals course. So all of that's capped off with a capstone project, and then we issue the certification. So that really helps kind of round out education, kind of where our flagship product is. We have a whole AI auditing certificate program. As Michael mentioned, that's kind of how we found Babel a while ago. And that is, all authored by our CEO, who was a PhD astrophysicist and leads our research and all that fun stuff. So, and the keynote in the legal space. So he talks a lot more about risk, the assurance process, MLA and AI generally. I think Michael said that was the hardest one, was getting all the mathematical concepts sorted out. But yeah, we have all that. And then we're helping organizations all the time with these problems through direct advisory. And then we're actually out, we have our own AI system, a model card kind of audit, where below the kind of the global AI management system, each individual AI system, we can evaluate and inspect the model to make sure that it's achieving what it's supposed to be doing within that probabilistic, what makes sense for the algorithm, right? So, in the system. So if you work with Babel, you generally are working with are just directly with us. We do scoping. Every AI has a different context, and we bring that into consideration, but it kind of flows into either providing assurance, audit, or advisory, or you're learning yourself and putting yourself in position to, find your lane with AI into the future as it's kind of uncertain. But these are core foundational concepts. The technology is kind of interchangeable in how we approach things. And we started with that foundational principles. And, these are good, just skills and knowledge to possess as the technology grows and changes every week. We've been doing this work for years now. So that's kind of the Babel hard pitch. But just to plug it one more time, if you are interested in the education, Law 30 at Babl AI, and you're able to get a discount across any of the educational products that we have, including the certificate for legal professionals.
If I could just add one thing about the course for lawyers in particular. We spend a lot of time on management systems for in-house, and then also how lawyers can manage their own workflows for personal use and professional use. But given this audience, I'd like to reiterate, for law firm, whether you're solo or you're a partner or you're working with other partners in a law firm context, the finder, minder, grinder functions, they'll get that very clearly. But the origination of clients can be done much more easily and effectively using AI, right? Just, getting intelligence on potential clients, creating a client file, remembering stuff, simply using Notebook LM for non-confidential information, using Perplexity with Edgar so that you can understand public companies and filings better, and all the information that comes with that, material contracts, industry analyses, all of that stuff that's a lot easier now with AI. But for the grinder, so the kind of the operations functions related to the firm, every minute that lawyers are spending on non-billable matters is money out of your pocket. So if you can streamline your operations and get more and better out of the systems that you have, whether they're you yourself doing it or you're working with paralegals and an office manager, enable them to do more and to do it better and more effectively in the same time. I'm not talking about downsizing. I'm just talking about allowing them to do better and be happier, and maybe that comes into compensation as well, because that makes a difference. But for the lawyers who are also billing, all that bullshit time that you're spending on making PowerPoints, presentations for clients, reports, stuff for some presentation at the local bar association, you can whip that stuff up in 5 minutes, which gives you another 55 minutes to actually make some money. So this is important. And then on, practice, this is a little sensitive. So, for Litigation, we've already talked about what to be careful of. But for other practices, there's a lot of work that can be made more efficient. And the question is how to address that, because many law firms are built on a leverage model, right? So if efficiency is not necessarily the core value of how these business models have developed over time. The world has changed and it's gotten a lot more competitive. Your clients are demanding efficiencies. You can now offer them efficiencies with flat fees or alternative fee arrangements by deploying better technologies in your firm and improving your workflow. So I think that that's it from a law firm and provider perspective. Understanding the in-house implications is actually very important also for service provider lawyers, because this is how the market has changed. I think if they're not already feeling it, they will feel the pressure to justify billable hours and their work process and why they're not using AI. The hallucinations and, oh, we're not, confidentiality, that will only get you so far. You need to address this head on. And in order to do that, you will have to understand it better so that you can at least respond to these questions from your
Oh, yeah. Great points. 100% agree. And it sounds like, if you're a lawyer listening, you're using AI, vendors with AI, hopefully you're using all those things. Getting educated and understanding what you have, what your risks are, putting in place, just like they just exposed me potentially. We get ChatGPT for every employee and we give them a little bit of, you should probably use it to do this. But we don't really have a system in place to manage that and to grow that and to expand on it. So, it's all very interesting stuff. And I appreciate you guys coming on to share. Really cool company. You're doing great things. And I appreciate you sharing with us on here today. Go to Babl AI. It's BABL.ai. And coupon code, 30?
Law 30.
Law 30.
LAW 30, all caps.
Excellent.
30 in numbers.
Yeah, 30. There we go.
Good point. Law 30. I think they'll figure it out. These lawyers are smart. They got this.
Yeah. One thing doesn't work, try another, right? That's the lawyer way, trial and error.
Yeah. So, you guys, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up? And anything else you want to share with?
Just on the confidence part, all lawyers, by definition, by training, we're all wordsmiths, right? This is how the AIs, the large language models, I'm not talking about the vision models and diffusion models. The large language models work by word association. You are very much like the large language model. And then, the interaction should be natural and a good fit for the way we have been trained. But, we just need to keep our eyes wide open and treat the models and the tools as very, very capable and smart paralegals or associates that are very bright but have no clue. And every morning when they come to work, they forget everything else that they learned yesterday. So you need to be aware of those limitations, but there's a lot you can get done with these tools to save you time, make you money, and maybe just get you homeward.
Like that. Well, appreciate it. Bryan, anything else you got?
I was just going to say, I appreciate you having us on. We'd love to, if there's stuff that we talked about that you want to talk more to us, we're always open for a conversation. You can find us contact information there too. And happy to talk about things. We do offer partnership programs. I'm a channel guy. So if there's competencies you want to bring in, we're happy to discuss. We do have legal partnerships with, data privacy folks or things along those lines to help bring in some of our services. So that's interesting at all. Love to talk more and help you grow your business. I mean, that's what we're here to do.
Appreciate it. I love it. That's what the podcast is all about. Growing your businesses. And I appreciate you guys coming on the show and sharing all this today. So check them out. Also, LinkedIn. I know these guys are both on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. If you want a direct connection, let me know. If not, look them up and connect with them there too. So I would encourage that. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning into another show. As always, I appreciate your loyalty to the show. And guys, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.